Good evening, everyone, from Israel. It's 10 o'clock p.m. Israel time, December 7th, Thursday, 2023. Also, from my fellow Jewish brothers and sisters and everyone around the world, happy Hanukkah. Tonight, we lit the first candle. Hopefully, this will be a sign that light will very soon overcome darkness. I'm here with an update after not being here for a few days, and I apologize. I'm not only dealing with health problems, but I'm doing so many other things, and yet I'm able to keep you up to date with all our platforms and what's going on in Israel from a perspective of someone who is a counterterrorism um, expert, if you would, and just wanted to tell you the truth, also give you the spiritual connection, the biblical connection of what's going on, and really just the truth about how this war is progressing, who's trying to stop Israel, who's with Israel, what's going on with Hamas, what's going on in the region with Hezbollah. So there's a lot of things that are going on right now. I'm going to not only go through our news page and just go like 2 days back all the way up until today and go over some major events that I felt like they were worth sharing. But also, I'm going to give you live updates from my phone where I monitor about 100 Gaza and Telegram groups, which you can see. It's all like people from Gaza and groups from Gaza and Hamas affiliated groups. Not because I care about what they have to say, is it because I like to cross information and get some breaking news to you guys. And most of the time, I go through this and filter because I don't want to help promote any psychological warfare the enemy, Hamas, might use. And they use a lot of psychological warfare, a lot of it, a lot of misinformation. They can scratch an IDF soldier and claim that they killed 10 of them in their social media. So you really get shocked when you hear that 10 IDF soldiers were killed, and then you realize one was minorly injured, thank God. So you can see how they use a lot of propaganda and they try to minimize their losses and maximize the IDF losses. Which brings me to just a little short update of what's going on right now. Today, it's been a really, I would say, a day of escalations in all fronts, especially the one from Lebanon, the Hezbollah terrorists from Lebanon fired an anti-tank missile towards an Israeli civilian car and killed an Israeli civilian, as well as since early this morning, there are a lot of red alerts up north, missiles coming from Hezbollah in Lebanon, Islamic Jihad in Lebanon, and of course, the Iranian-backed militias from Syria. The IDF has been retaliating viciously to all of these attacks, but it's still under the, let's put it that way, it's not a full-scale war yet, but we're getting there. The more pressure the IDF is putting on Hamas in Gaza, and Hamas in Gaza it's close to break. And I'll tell you why. We're going to go over some of the news, but you'll know why Hamas in Gaza is close to break, because the IDF now is operating boots on the ground everywhere in Gaza, especially in the city of Khan Yunis, which is the origin of terror. It's where the leaders are hiding. It's where the hostages are known to be found. And it's very easy to know that the hostages were there to begin with because, just the journalist in me, I guess, the curiosity in me, I went and watched hours of tape from the first day of the war. And by the way, today, the 7th, is exactly 2 months after those vicious attacks, since those vicious attacks against the Israeli people, against the state of Israel, against humanity, really, anything that represents good. So, and hello, Danny, I'm going to answer in just a second. So like I said, I watched footage from the first day of the war, and it was a big confusion. Like the Israeli, it was a Saturday, it was a Sabbath, so news was not supposed to be aired for until the evening that day. But when the news was breaking, like they got crews in there, and then things got very, very more and more confusing. Like we didn't know the amount of devastation and shock until later. For hours, we were sure it's like 40 people died, which is terrible on its own, but it's not like 1,400 people. So nobody knew everything and anything. But I remember that people talked to family members that were stuck in those Israeli villages and settlements and kibbutzes, and they were saying that they can't find their loved ones, and they were trying to locate them with this, via their phone or Find My Phone, or all these apps that you have. They're GPS based, and they were locating them the day of, a few hours after, in the city of Khan Yunis, where the IDF is operating right now, and which is going to lead me to show you what happened today, but not before. I'm going to read a couple of comments here to make sure I cover everything, because it's going to be a short one. I have a feeling we have a very, very tough days ahead of us here in Israel. There's a lot of indications. One of them I already published, that one of the most popular airlines that fly in and out of Israel, it's a low-cost airlines, but it's very, very popular here. Dozens of flights, hundreds of flights a day. They're canceled all activities from and to Israel until I think December. I think it's until February of 2024. Abraham, happy Hanukkah, and to all of you again. So there's indications that things are not. I mean, yeah, we might finish Hamas in the Gaza Strip, but we immediately going to move to a real, more of a challenging war for the Israeli people, the Israeli front, because a war with Hezbollah automatically means a war with Iran, and a war with all of Iran's proxies, including the Houthis from Yemen, who's already been involved in this war, attacking Israel almost daily with ballistic missiles, with long-range ballistic missiles and drones. And there's a lot going on, and they already attack ships and boats that don't even belong to Israel. They just pretty much attack anything that moves in the Red Sea in order to claim that they attack Israel. So the world is really going crazy. There's so much news, I couldn't even get in there and update you. I really wanted, let's see here, I really wanted real news, like something game-changing news, so I can just go there and give you a new update. But then today happened, and there was a lot going on today, and people kept asking me, when are we going to do more live videos? And if some people understand it better that way, that I'll be more than honored to do these live videos. So I'm going to answer these questions, and then I'm going to go over what happened today, and also give you a little video from inside the Gaza Strip, where the citizens are starting to turn against Hamas. Okay, starting to turn. The fear barrier has been broken. And again, if you're asking me, the whole Gaza Strip, the whole Gaza City is Hamas, and we shouldn't do this separation, because we're giving them a lot more than they deserve. So I hope you're watching your mental health too, watching those videos. I try not to watch the videos that are that are already watched, that are gory. Like, I don't need to see a lot of that. I mean, we know what they're capable of doing. We hear the stories. I don't need a lot of video evidence. But I want to show you a different type of videos today, by the way. Praying for protection, healing, blessing, victory. Happy Hanukkah. Thank you, Sue. Do you think U.S. and France will help? Well, right now, all U.S. and France are doing is tying Israel's hands even more, especially up in the north. Like in Israeli, what did we do to Lebanon since October 7th? That we need to now, there's about 100,000 Israelis who left their homes up north. 100,000 Israelis. who are dislocated by force. The IDF told them all to leave their homes because they're in danger. And nobody knows what's going to happen. Like, Hezbollah fires at us unprovoked. We fire back. We killed over 110 Hezbollah terrorists. And don't get me wrong, like this, it's disproportional as far as what our retaliation, the IDF retaliations, did to Hezbollah versus what they did to us. But at the same time, they keep us all hostages. I mean, all of the Israeli residents of northern Israel are now living in hotels using hotel vouchers, and they don't have answers of when they can go back to their homes. They, in fact, refuse to go back to their homes until Hezbollah is dealt with. And Hezbollah is going to be dealt with via war, and we're going to go there in just a second. And we can chat about the university congressional hearing if I have time for that. That's also in the agenda. I just must say something, a bad spirit, something evil is going on with the university, something shameful. Every American should really, really stand up against these universities. I mean, they practice things that really don't sit with American values at all, of freedom, of respect and mutual, all that stuff, of tolerance, of freedom of religion. I mean, it's dangerous to be a Jew in America now. I mean, you couldn't get out of this woman one word condemning the calls to kill any Jew. Any Jew. Even in Nazi Germany, you wouldn't hear university leaders calling for the destruction of Jewish people. They might have been supported that, but they knew their spot. It was saved for the Nazi party leaders and the military, the SS. But here, sorry, there have been explosions outside. Let's make sure everything's okay. Here in the United States, you have the Harvard University chancellor, president, whatever you want to call her, is gay. And you couldn't get, I condemn the calls to hurt Jewish students in my campus. Penn State University president couldn't answer either. And you just don't, I don't understand that hatred. Is it that Qatari money, is that significant to you that you would step on your own values? Now, what happened to people? I understand Arab, Muslims, Hamas supporters, people who don't agree with Israel's existence to go and say these horrible things. The Iranian regime, to say this, to call it for the destruction of Israel. But when college students, not only college students, but Ivy League, quote unquote now Ivy League, they're, if you're asking me, after October 7th or even way before, they're the lowest league schools. They're the minor league schools. They're amateurs. And they're anti-Semitic, and they're anti-American, and they're anti-anything that goes with American values or family values or anything that used to be normal, for God's sake. I gave up with the American colleges. I gave up with that generation who is supposed to be educated. And instead, we have a bunch of people who are really just practicing how to hate because they watch something on TikTok or they just get their facts wrong. Yeah. A lot of them, but that's the same people who also want to defund police. That's the same people who say and push for legislation like, you got to steal that much worth of merchandise in California in order to do any kind of jail time or in order to be even criminally charged. I mean, that's the same sick mindset. So now they take it into this conflict. It's very easy to blame Israel. It's very easy to blame the Jews, especially when Qatar and some anti-Israel Jewish figures are the ones pouring the money to all these campuses. And then what do you expect? It's like a breeding ground for terrorism. But let me share the screen with you guys, ladies and gentlemen. Let me see how I do that again. Okay, I'm going to share the screen with you really quick. And we're going to go over just headlines of what happened to us in the past 2 days. So here, this was published a couple of days ago on Fox News. Doctors treating freed Hamas hostages reveal unprecedented abuse. We have to rewrite the textbooks. Guys, and the U.S. intelligence also came with a report that then the IDF spokesman had to also affirm that pretty much what happened was that the hostages, the women, because the Hamas terrorists categorized the hostages by by age, and if they're in military age or not, were they in the military, men, women, children, sick people. And then they have these Israeli women who are not even on the list to be freed in any kind of deal, because the Hamas terrorists suspected these women to be soldiers. So some of the hostages gave testimonies, and then some intelligence, American intelligence and Israeli intelligence, were able to gather or to paint a more terrifying picture of systematic rape and terrible abuse that's happening to my sisters in Gaza right now, the hostages, the Israeli women, who their only sin were that they happened to be in a party, they happened to be between the age 18 and 30 something, and now Hamas treats them as female soldiers, and now they have a lot of religious permissions to rape them and to do terrible things to them. And these are the testimonies that and some of them that were returned. You see, even doctors saying that we have to rewrite the textbooks. We don't even know how to deal with this type of trauma to these women that were taken from their homes, from their beds. And some of them, I don't want to, from respect to women here in this group or in this page or watching, I'm not going to go to descriptions. You guys can Google it yourself and see what I'm talking about. Now let's scroll up here. And of course, I'm going to give you live updates from my phone afterwards. So in this pictures, I posted, and by the way, this is our page. And let me tell you something about this page. Years ago, up until COVID, when this page was shut down, and then I somehow gave it a CPR and brought it back to life, but I was blocked multiple times because I used to do these lives, but it was COVID related. And God forbid you would talk about COVID and have a Facebook account and try to have something that is different than the main agenda. And I was speaking about just, geopolitics in general, and it was a very successful page, and we kind of changed it up and dedicated it now to the Israeli-Hamas conflict, which will be a regional war, and then ultimately, I think, a world war. But this is just me. So here I posted 2 days ago that Arab websites and later on all websites show these pictures as if it were the IDF preparing to flood Hamas underground tunnels. You can clearly see the pipes into the ground. So yes, it's true. This is what happened. These are the IDF soldiers connecting pipes to a very powerful pump that's already actively pumping seawater into these tunnels, hoping to have these tunnels collapse on whoever is there. Either that or suffocates or just comes out and fights. And from stories I hear from people who are there, and you're not going to see videos about that online, but I'm going to tell you it's already working. And the way it's working, that from other people saying, is the idea floods one side of the tunnel, one opening, and then terrorists coming out, and then they're being eliminated from the air immediately after they come out. They just come out with the water and then being eliminated from the air. The fighting, ladies and gentlemen, are extreme as we speak in the heart of Gaza. We're going to go up and see what else happened in Gaza, but so that's what happened with the pipe. So we are planning, the IDF is planning, Israel is planning to flood these tunnels. They're really worried about that already in the UN. They said it's going to hurt the infrastructure of Gaza. Who cares? Why did you let them build tunnels then? They built tunnels. They used all the money. And we're going to scroll up and you guys see that those of you who live in the US and pay taxes, I'm going to tell you straightforward, you fund Hamas. Till this day, right now, you help indirectly or even directly with your tax money, you fund Hamas because they're getting millions of dollars in aid. When you send millions of dollars to Gaza in aid, and you know Hamas is still, unfortunately, the sovereign entity in Gaza, who do you actually pay to this money? You pay it to Hamas. And I'm going to play you a little video to see where the aid that Americans and the world are giving Gaza nowadays is going to. It's going strictly to Hamas, to strengthen Hamas, to let them regroup. And the whole world is taking part in this farce and being lied to. So we talked about the tunnels. We're going to flood these tunnels and hoping that we're going to have them surrender. Maybe find the hostages, who knows? I think with the hostages, we'll need a lot of prayers and luck and the right information, intelligence, the way that we can get them out safely. Well, this is something that we published here. Netflix is being Netflix, and anything that is anti-Israel agenda is on the agenda, and they keep falling into the so-called Palestinian lie by really try to make the IDF as like war criminals and stuff. So if you ever want to sign, go there and you can sign to protest against it. But I want to show you the reality of Israel. So these two guys, I don't know if you ever seen this video. These two guys are going to be walking now. And a rocket, I guess it was an alarm minutes prior to that. And you're supposed to stay in the safe room for 10 minutes because of the following. Let's see if I can maximize that screen. So watch these two guys. Boom. Let's rewind that real quick. They're walking the street. Hasn't been 10 minutes. Boom. This is part of the rocket. The interceptor, but I think it's part of the rocket that fell from the sky and almost killed these two guys. That's how terrifying that is. That's the reality. They're walking the streets, and we're so used to the sirens. So we'll get out as soon as we can. Some of us won't even go to the safe room, unfortunately. But they just walked out too soon. And we know what happened. Let me move up here. These are the so-called journalists in Gaza. Again, these are all Hamas members, Hamas supporters. They pretend to be journalists. These are the people that you see going with the Hamas terrorists and taking selfies of how the Hamas terrorists are killing Jews and portraying to be journalists. I'm not going to spend my breath on them. We're going to go up here. This is really important that the House rules that anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism, because a lot of people who are anti-Semitic, like the people in the colleges, or like the Hamas supporters, or there are a lot of the illegal refugees, quote unquote, who came to America in order to make America an Islamic nation. They say, no, we're not anti-Semitic. We're just anti-Zionist. We just don't want Israel to exist. We don't hate Jews. We just don't want them to have a home. We don't hate Jews. We just don't want them to have a military. We don't want them protected. That's what they're saying. So now the House was making a good decision by defining really you're anti-Zionist, you're anti-Zionist, you're anti-Jewish, you're anti-Semitic. We can't allow that anymore. Okay, so again, the media will not tell you a lot about that, but here, man charged, this is the New York Times, okay, yesterday. Man charged with hate crime in Times Square assault on Israeli tourist. Now, men, tell the truth. A Muslim Arab found an Israeli Jew, okay, and assaulted him. I think it was stabbing, if I'm not mistaken. But that's, you're not going to hear about that. Yes, you read about it here, but you're not going to hear about it echoing. You're not going to hear that it's a problem. Okay, here, there was also yesterday, the IDF surrounded Yahya Sinwar's house in Khan Yunis area, the leader of Hamas. Evil. This is how evil looks like. Complete evil. The mastermind behind the attacks. Vicious man. Murder. And it's symbolic. We know he doesn't live there. But Israel went in there to show him, hey, we're going to destroy your house, which is, by the way, now destroyed. And we're going to prove you that we're after you. We're that close to you. And in the Arab Islamic culture, a person's house and property and land are very important. And the house is a symbol of what they were able to achieve in their lives. And if you destroy their homes, you have a huge effect on what's going on, or how the war is going to play out. Okay, here also, guys, I want you to see this video. These are Israeli police officers, and they're cleaning an area. A rocket fell today in one of the schools, okay? And that was really close to where we live. And the school happened to be closed. I think it was after school. And see how lucky they were. It just penetrated through the roof. I mean, kids could have been there and being killed. Watch this. You can see the rocket. Four people. People to lift this thing up. Okay, and that was a school. That was a school. So you guys know what we're dealing with here. Who is the real war criminal? Who's really aiming towards civilians? You guys see it. Can't fake it. And at the same time, the IDF is warning the civilians of Gaza, even though the majority of these civilians support what happened on October 7th, praise what happened on October 7th. In fact, anytime there's been a terror attack, both in Israel or against Christians in Madrid train station or during 9/11, these people were handing out candy. If you don't believe me, go on YouTube. You'll see the people of Gaza were celebrating the death of non-Muslims anywhere in the world, and the more tragic the event was, the happier and more candy they were handing out. That's the truth. That's the truth. Nobody will tell you that because it's not politically correct and it's stereotyping. I'm not stereotyping all Muslims, not at all. People of Gaza, the vast majority of them, just look at their election results. 90% of them voted Hamas. It speaks for itself. Yeah, so the IDF, there's another video. The IDF is working deep in Gaza, and of course, they were able to find a lot of Hamas long range rockets or missiles. These are the missiles. See that long ones were the ones that can make the distance all the way from the eastern Gaza Strip to central Israel and even parts of northern Israel. They carry, see these ones, they carry dozens of kilos of explosives. Here's a drone, and they do a lot of damage. They can take down a whole floor and kill many, many people. These are all rifles. You see, they're all dusted because they're all hidden. A lot of explosive materials, shells, mortars, all that stuff. That's what the IDF has been recovering. That's how you clean house. This is why you're there. This is why you have boots on the ground, and this is why the Biden administration should stop pressuring Israel and let Israel finish the job. Okay? It's tough fighting, and Israel is trying its best to avoid hurting civilians. Otherwise, everything would be done from the air. Everything could have been done from the air. Everything could have been done with artillery. The IDF could have just fired artillery until people would just run for their lives and go to the Egyptian border and try to escape. Whoever can, whoever can't. But the fact that the IDF is there in person, boots on the ground, is because we want to aim for the terrorists who committed the October 7th massacre. That if you compare the population to America, it's almost like a terror attack who have taken the life of 50,000 Americans. 50,000. And 1,200 are being held in captivity. So very, 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 very serious situation. Okay. So you saw that here. It's just, you guys look at these faces. You know, it's important you guys take a minute to look at these faces. These are the faces of those who were killed, okay? These are the faces of who the monsters from Hamas just took their lives for no reason. Do you see them as, you know, as dangerous? Do you see them as fighters? Do you see them as, I just see smiling, happy, beautiful girls. And Hamas took their lives. It's really, really important. Every time you need to know and kind of get a perspective of what happened, you see, I mean, we could have gone on and on and on if we had all the pictures and all the faces and the men and the children and the elderly women, but it's just to show you what we're dealing with, okay? And I said once yesterday, I said, it will take us years to digest what we went through in just a few hours. So in few hours of horrors, it'll take us years as Israelis to deal with it. Now I'm going to give you the icing of the cake, okay? So yesterday I posted that the U.S. announces humanitarian aid to the so-called Palestinian people worth $21 million beyond the $100 million that President Biden promised in October. So $21 million and another $100 million, all from you guys' pockets, from you guys' taxes, from you guys' tolls, anything you guys pay for the government, all the fees, it all goes into that. USA Director Samantha Power announced yesterday in Egypt, in the country that refuses to accept the Gazan refugees or the Gazan civilians until the war is over. You know, open your borders, let them get in. We'll deal with Hamas, they can come back. Nope. They want them to fight the IDF to the death so Israel can be blamed for quote-unquote genocide. So $21 million on top of $100 million that were promised 2 months ago. So they're going to give them that money. And you know what they do with this money when they get aid? Watch, I'm going to play it for you right now.
لا تدخل مساعدات.
ما في المساعدات كلها نازلة تحت. المساعدات ما بيجوا للأمة ولا بيجي للشعب كله.
في حج كتير كتير بيوصل، اللي بيوصل إشي قليل وبيتوزع هيك بيحكوا.
كله للبيوت إلهم، خليهم ياخدون ولا يطخون ولا يعملوا بدهم إياه حماس. خليهم ياخدون ولا يطخون ولا يعملوا بدهم إياه حماس.
So what is she saying? An older lady, what does she got to lose? She's not scared. Because usually up before October 7th, if you would dare to speak like that in Gaza, you dare speaking like that in Gaza, you'd have gotten killed, your body dragged in the streets, and you'd be hanging somewhere. So, but this lady, because she probably lost her home because of that, the guy is asking her about the humanitarian aid. He said, "Did you get any aid? Are you provided? Are you surviving?" And she said, "Hamas taking everything." Listen, I'm going to play it again. Read it.
الوضع صعب، لا تدخل مساعدات.
ما في المساعدات كلها نازلة تحت. المساعدات ما بيجوا للأمة ولا بيجي للشعب.
He's trying to tell her no aid is coming. And she's telling her no aid is coming, but it's all going underground, meaning to the tunnels. She said the aid does not reach the nation and the entire people. It doesn't do so. You paying your taxes. The Biden administration is giving $120 million to Gaza, and it doesn't go to Gaza. It goes indirectly to Hamas. Hamas steals it all. So you are funding Hamas. Your money, your hard worked earned money is going to fund Hamas. It's very simple. And if I'm going to be in America soon, hopefully, God willing, but if I was in America right now, I would write my congressman or woman a strong letter about this. Why do I fund Hamas? And here's the evidence. She's saying it does not reach them. She said that she said that. Nobody made her say that. She said it goes to Hamas and they will shoot me if I say anything. They'll take all the aid to their homes. Watch.
الشعب كله.
في حج كتير كتير بيوصل، اللي بيوصل إشي قليل وبيتوزع هيك بيحكوا.
كله للبيوت إلهم، خليهم ياخدون ولا يطخون ولا يعملوا بدهم إياه حماس. خليهم ياخدون ولا يطخون ولا يعملوا بدهم إياه حماس.
So this is what's going on. And we're going to continue here. So we talked about, okay, now here. People ask me about what's going on in Lebanon. What's going on with Hezbollah? I think these two trains are in a collision course. It's going to happen. It's meant to happen. Israel is trying its best to avoid a two-front war. We don't want a two-front war. No modern military, regardless how strong you are, even the US military, which is considered the strongest in the world, is going to prefer to fight in two and possibly 3 or 4 or 5 fronts at the same time. If you can pull that off until you finish with one front, that's one thing. But all in at the same time, it requires a lot of resources, a lot of attention, and Israel is a very small country. And we know that the war with Hezbollah means directly a war with Iran, which is going to drag the US into the picture, some European countries, and then the Russians and the Chinese will side with Iran. And before you know it, you have a world war, a devastating one. We have to pray for peace. We have to pray, and we have to do our best to side with the good ones. And the only way to save the situation is to pray that we make it as a world peacefully to 2024. And when you vote for the next American president, I don't care who it's going to be, as long as it's from the Republican Party. Because the Biden administration, just like the Obama administration, which the Biden administration is the direct continuation of Obama's administration and policies, has proven, that's fact, to bring nothing but destruction to the Middle East and to the stability in the world. You say what you want about President Trump, but when he was in power, you saw shocking footages of American president walking with the North Korean president, shaking hands, smiling, not fighting, not using nuclear weapons. China is listening to him. Russia is listening to him. The Arab world is listening to him. He's bringing peace agreements to Israel and the Arab worlds in the Gulf states. But right now, you see what's going on, and that's my personal opinion. When you face a lack of American leadership, people in America see it internally, and we in the world right now see it externally. So right now, the Biden administration is thinking about the elections. So if we need to throw Israel under the wheels of the bus, we do that. By the way, that doesn't mean that I don't appreciate the American support. Without the American support, Israel would have been defeated in this very war. Today marked the 200th American cargo plane that came to Israel, that landed in Israel with ammunition, with bombs, with Iron Dome interceptors, bullets, you name it. But that's from the American people. That was approved by Congress. The American people, in majority, have an unconditional support for Israel. But the current Biden administration is doing everything it can to prevent Israel from giving the final blow and defeat its enemies. So here they're saying the newspaper Al Akhbar, which is an Arab newspaper, they're usually reliable when they're quoting the West. It says the USA and France to the government of Lebanon, full withdrawal of Hezbollah from southern Lebanon, according to the resolution 1701, or war. They're quoting Israel's warning. What's the 1701 resolution? In 2006, after the Second Lebanon War between Israel and Hezbollah, a ceasefire was reached and agreed upon in the UN Security Council, and the resolution was passed that the Hezbollah should be northern of the Litani River, which is about 5 to 6 miles or even more from the Israeli border, and in between them and Israel will be allowed only the UNIFIL, the UN forces, and the Lebanese army. Okay, but since then this has never been enforced and never been honored, and Hezbollah is on the Israeli border, and we see what they do now. They fire anti-tank missiles towards civilian targets. Imagine somebody's outside your town in America or in the UK or in Australia somewhere and just shooting you with an RPG. Like, this is crazy. This is crazy. So you're welcome. Drive safe, Danny. So this is what's going on. So Israel said, like, if they're going to do it, if the Lebanese government is going to make Hezbollah, which they won't be able to, Hezbollah controls Lebanon, but if they'll make them agree to withdraw, then, you know, we're going to enforce the border and we're not going to have a war with them, hopefully. However, it's a big part. They play a big part, a big role in the Iranians' plan, the master plan. That wasn't supposed to start October 7th, but Hamas already started it, and they're going to lose one of their proxies in Gaza, and Hezbollah is going to have to decide whether they retreat or they're going to face war from Israel, which will destroy the country of Lebanon. But what can we do? And the country of Lebanon, you know, if you took Hezbollah from there, that's the only country that can have peace with Israel, because the country of Lebanon has, I don't know if a majority, but it's got a huge Christian population. Most of them, they don't want any war. They don't have any issues with Israel. But again, in the late 80s, Iran took over Lebanon with Hezbollah and created this monster, the strongest by far terror organization in the world, with over 200,000 rockets and missiles aimed to Israel and lots of weapons. They fought in Syria. They're allies with the Russians. They're drug dealers. They smuggle a lot of drugs to the U.S. towards the southern border, using cooperation with cartels, with Mexican cartels. Hezbollah is a real deal. So a war between Israel and Hezbollah will probably ignite what they call the West Bank as well, the Arabs in the West Bank, Judea and Samaria, and the Syrian, Iranian militias. So it's going to be nasty, and it's coming. Like I'm telling you, it's going to be nasty. Like, yes, Israel will go back 20 years in time, as far as infrastructure, as far as damages, as far as economical damages. But Lebanon will be destroyed. Syria might be destroyed. I mean, Iran, it's one of these things that once you start a regional war in this area, in the Middle East, and then you have Western forces involved, there's no turning back. And I'm really concerned. I'm concerned because I can feel the tension. I mean, it's getting worse and worse every day. People might think like, okay, the IDF is in Gaza. There's not a lot of rockets right now. We control Gaza. Gaza was never the problem. Gaza was the trigger. Hezbollah is Iran's main weapon. And we're very, very close to either Hezbollah surprising us or the IDF is surprising them. And I hope the IDF surprises them. So these two leaders were saying, hey, Israel is meaning business. It's going to be a war. Now listen to this, ladies and gentlemen, really quick.
Are telling ABC News, and also just in terms of how some of the people inside Gaza are feeling with these leaflets, they are telling ABC News that some of these leaflets are a bit confusing. I know there's this QR code on there, but some people also say in Gaza that, they don't have power. I know that is something that you have refuted in the past in terms of people having, access to power. But how do you respond to that when some people say that despite the leaflets and despite the phone calls, they still feel like no place is safe?
I understand where they're coming from. I really do. And I don't want to put a sugar coating on this. I think Gaza is an incredibly difficult place to be. We are doing absolutely everything we can. It's clear to us we have to destroy Hamas. I think it's clear to everyone, or mostly everyone. Hamas has to be destroyed. But we are doing everything we can, and we're open to new ideas. We're constantly coming up with new ideas. We are also calling on all these international aid agencies that are there in the field. If it's UNRWA, if it's UNICEF, if it's the Red Cross, don't just say that these people can't be moved. They've already been moved. We've already moved more than 1 million people to safety. Work with us, work with them, help us move them to safety. Let's all try to keep these people safe and destroy Hamas, which is really destroying their lives at the end of the day. This is the only way to get to a more hopeful future, but we need help. We hope these international aid agencies will really help the situation and not curtail the situation.
Major Doron Spielman, I am so grateful for your time today. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much.
So it shows you we're in a war, and we took over Gaza, but at the same time, we're making sure that civilians are safe. Though after what happened to us, especially by civilians who elected these savages to be their governors, we could have wiped them all off. We didn't, and we still don't. And it's a tough fighting. I'm going to read you what's going on live soon. I'm still going on through what happened. This happened earlier. Okay, this is the highlight of the day. Everybody knows these pictures. So about 100 Hamas terrorists surrendered themselves to the IDF. since they're such heroes and the 172 virgins, and they're just, they're martyrs, right? They fight for God. They're holy fighters. No, they're not. They're cowards. They all came out the holes and they said, we don't want to fight. And again, to show you that Israel is not what they're trying to portray it, or the IDF is not. They're all alive. They will be treated better than most people are treated in U.S. prison. And I can tell you, somebody who worked in the U.S. prison before. But a lot of them were captured for intelligence, because if one of them will be able to give in some information about the hostages or leadership, I think that they'll even compensate him. So I said it earlier, an Israeli civilian was killed by an anti-tank missile fired from Lebanon. That was exactly 7 hours ago. It's so sad. It cannot continue. Something will have to happen. And going straight to this, 4 hours ago, Prime Minister Netanyahu assessing the situation in the north. Imagine, that's a person who's above 70, who's fighting, who's running 5 fronts as a prime minister. I don't even know how many hours he sleeps a day, a night, if he sleeps. So he says, and I quote, if Hezbollah starts an all-out war, we will turn southern Lebanon and Beirut into Gaza and Khan Yunis. See what he's saying? We can turn it to Gaza and Khan Yunis. So he's threatening Lebanon. He's saying, we're going to go after you. We're going to destroy you. So, and a sad news from 4 hours ago. We lose soldiers every day, and may God avenge their death, and may God bless their souls, the defenders of Israel. It's the IDF. It's called the IDF for a reason. It's the Israeli Defense Force. We could have called it the IAF, the Israeli Attack Force. It's called the Defense Force for a reason. It's our people. It's our sons or daughters. It's mandatory service. It's patriotism. And here you have this gentleman here to the left, the younger one, Gal Eisenkot, a reserve fighter in the 551st Brigade, the youngest son of former chief of staff. So this guy's father here was the former chief of staff and a member of the war cabinet. Gadi Eisenkot was killed today in battle in the Gaza Strip. So it shows you why Israel is one of the few countries in the world where a man can run the war in a nuclear bomb shelter, a command room, while his son is fighting in the battlefield in the front line. I mean, only in Israel. It's insane. Let's go back and cover some evil. Here, Ania, the head of Hamas, knows the end is coming, at least to his fellow poor militias or commanders in Gaza, while he's enjoying fancy hotels in Qatar and being a billionaire. By the way, this man is a billionaire. He's a billionaire. His kids are multi-millionaires, and they keep showing the Gazan people of how they don't care about the Palestinian people or the people of Gaza. They care about themselves. They took all this money. They're corrupt. They're evil. And they use the fighting Israel agenda just so they can have an agenda. So he now saying, Pakistan, you're a nuclear Muslim country, the only Muslim country who's nuclear, who's known to be a nuclear country. Help us. Use pressure on Israel to stop their aggression. Good luck with that. And here what I told you from 2 hours ago, the indications that, this is the airline I started with, the world's largest low-cost airline. Ryanair is canceling all its flights to Israel until February of 2024. So it's going to affect many, many, many people. We're already locked in here. We're not able to fly anywhere. But more and more are canceling because they know it's not going to get any easier from here on. And I'm going to now go back to you. I'm going to read some comments really quick. Let's see. Biden administration, period, recipes. Thank you so much. Facebook user. See, sometimes it shows me your name, sometimes not. I don't know why, but whoever you are, thank you. Sue, I think Hezbollah has to go. I think you'll have to be sneaky there. Yeah, but even if you're sneaky, now we're to a point when we all like in, they call it brace position, militarily speaking. So I don't think we can surprise too much. They're going to shoot everything they have at us. We're going to shoot everything we have at them. And it's going to get nasty. War is never pretty, right? This person said he felt someone damaged his land. I thought Hezbollah done. Yeah. Yeah. A true fighter may take hostage, but they don't rape and torture. Yeah. No, I don't know. I mean, I don't think anybody should take any hostages unless somebody kidnapped yours, you kidnap them, you go. I don't know. But I think they're not true fighters, Sue. They were never true fighters. I'm telling you from firsthand, they're always, when it comes to moment of truth, they're scared. Israel is the only country that has taken so much care to try not to hurt civilians. No other country, including the war with Ukraine and Russia, has taken the care to do what Israel has done in this war. The world never demanded any of these other countries to cease fire. And yet, it's another form of anti-Semitism, so that help could get into civilian population in this country to protect them. Only Israel and the world should stand behind Israel and support them. Hamas must be eliminated. All terrorists must be eliminated. Yes, and this is what's happening right now. They're being eliminated. They're being eliminated, and you know it's tough times because here's how I see things. You know, one of the old rules of classic rules of war, or one of the main things about war doctrines, is that when you siege a city, when you place a siege on a city, you have to surround it from all directions but one, because you have to leave them a room to flee. In directions they can just flee, then you stay, whoever wants to fight, and you either win or lose. Because if you surround them from all directions, then they're going to fight to the death because they got their back against the wall, right? This is what's happening in Gaza right now. The Egyptians are doing anything they can in order to prevent anyone from going to the Sinai Desert or to Egypt, even temporarily. A lot of them want to leave. They won't let them leave. They want Israel to fight Hamas, and they want Hamas to use the people of Gaza as human shields, and they don't care if 20, 30, 40, 100,000 die, as long as they can blame Israel for committing genocide, for starving the people, for creating humanitarian crisis. How is Israel creating humanitarian crisis? Did Israel start the October 7 attacks? Does Israel hold Hamas hostages in Israel? How did we start anything? We fighting terrorism. You want to support us in this time? Support us like you did in the beginning. If you don't, just stand back. Don't interfere. This is our war. This is our boundaries. This is our tomorrow. This is our future. Nobody should tell us this is the most just, this is the most just war or justified war Israel's ever had. There's never been in the history of Israel more of a just war. So is Knesset going to adopt new laws accepting for new reality? The answer, Avraham, is no. And I'll tell you why, because Israel is too much of a progressive liberal country that, you know, we wanted to do something with the death penalties to those who committed the massacre, but we already have them getting lawyers. And you remember the judicial reforms that we wanted to do that almost led to a civil war here? That by itself. So we wanted to do that so we can come up with new laws to be able to defend the people of Israel. But unfortunately, we have a lot of people inside who would still have the old agendas, still live in the October 6th days, and think that we can have peace with these savages. And they want to have the PLO run Gaza, which is Hamas in suits. Hamas in suits. That's who they are. Same thing. They don't want to kill you now. They want to kill you in stages after you give up all your land. So I'm going to go over really quick to see if something happened in between now and when we first start speaking, so you guys get the most up-to-date stuff. Okay, so now there's representatives. Let's see, I'm going to give you some news. And don't ask me about my sources. Some of them are available, some of them are not. House Representatives announce probe into Harvard, MIT, and UPenn after morally bankrupt testimony on anti-Semitism. So the House is going to investigate that. Good for them. Yeah, it's crazy. Anti-Semitism in colleges in the US. Who would believe? Who would believe? Who would believe? Now, a Hamas leader in Lebanon claims that if the Palestinians in Gaza will be transferred to Sinai, they will attack Israel from that border. Okay, the further from Israel, the better, and we'll attack you back. Paul McCartney supports Israel and dedicates a post to the Jewish people for Hanukkah, and also showed a yellow heart in solidarity with the hostages. Good for you, Paul McCartney. I know some celebrities who go with the other side, shamefully for them. They're going to open a new ward in the Israeli prison that's underground, that hasn't been used in decades, and imprison those from Hamas who were caught on October 7, the terrorists. They're saying that 500 terrorists, Hamas terrorists, were eliminated in Jabalia, Gaza, just in the past 48 hours. Today, more than 150 terrorists that I showed you pictures of, half naked, most of them from Hamas, were surrendered pretty much. And now John Kirby's deputy, national security, U.S. national security, John Kirby's deputy, saying that he's denying the claims and allegations that were heard by some politicians and journalists, and saying we did not limit Israel or give her any time limit in its war to destroy Hamas. Thank you, Kamala Harris. Thank you for waking up. So the U.S. VP Kamala Harris saying that we witnessed some reports, some terrible, terrifying reports on sexual violence that Hamas has committed on October 7th, and we condemn them. Okay. We're not impressing the Hamas. You should do more than condemning. How about not giving them money? How about backing Israel up 120%? How about when Joe Biden, your boss, saying don't to Hezbollah? If you want to interfere, if you think you can interfere, remember the first few days of the war? He warned Iran's proxies, if you want to take advantage of it and interfere in this war and attack Israel while Israel is busy eliminating Hamas, don't. That's what he said. Don't. Well, they do. And they're doing it right now. And there's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing you do about it besides tying Israel's hands behind its back. And it's not fair. You don't treat an ally like that. Guys, the battle is going to expand. It's going to be serious. We need a lot of prayers here. It's truly the calm before the storm. I told everybody, and my wife knows it, the war with Hezbollah will be a reality changer for the life as we know it in Israel. But I think that at the same time, it's worth the price of really being free from vicious enemies who want to kill us on our borders. And if it is war, then it's war. We're a nation that has been under the threat of war since the very beginning. We'll live by the sword. And if we don't live by our sword, we will die by theirs. Always remember that. choose the right side in history, because history will never ever forgive you. But most of the people who follow this page, they do follow the right side. They do follow justice. And you don't have to be an Israeli. You don't have to be Jewish. You don't even have to have too much knowledge about what's going on here. But you have to be a human being who cannot stand still and not speak up against horrors like humanity experienced on October 7th. People were killed, raped, burned alive, murdered, shot at from point blank because they were Jewish. And they happened to be in the path of monsters. Don't you ever forget that. And don't look for reason, because there isn't a reasonable reason for what happened. We'll just have to win this fight. We have to eliminate the threat. We have to stay strong and united. And may God help us. Because what's going on here, in my opinion, is biblical. Nothing less than biblical. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. You know, I promised my wife 15 minutes of update, and I always end up with an hour and 15 minutes. But you know, there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to talk about, and I wish I had more time. Well, it's an excuse. I can make more time, and I should make more time and have more guests. But I really wanted to update you when there's something really, because you know, every day just saying, you know, they should fire rockets at us. We retaliated. We're operating in Gaza. Hezbollah doing this. We do. We need. Though there are many news to provide you, there's also the will to give you breaking news and something that you really need to hear when it comes to these live updates. Okay, to kind of give you analysis. And if anybody ever wants to ask a question or even to come on these podcasts and speak, your voice is important. This is not a talent show. We just want to see that people have a place to share their opinion about what's going on, what's right, what's wrong, what needs to be done. Because trust me, I trust the average person that comments on Facebook more than I do the most experienced politicians. But that's just me. Thank you so much, guys, for watching and listening. Happy Hanukkah again. Today is the first candle of Hanukkah, those who celebrate it and those who don't. And may God bless the United States. May God bless Israel. May God bless the world. Thank you.